तो हेलो गाइस, वेलकम बैक। जैसे कि मैंने आपको पिछले वीडियो में बताया था कि अभी मैं नेक्स्ट वीडियो में कोई भी एक स्टूडेंट को लेके आऊँगा जो कि एक पर्टिकुलर यूनिवर्सिटी में पढ़े हैं या पढ़ते हैं, और उनसे हम यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के रिव्यूज़ और सजेशंस मांगेंगे और उनसे ये भी पूछेंगे अगर उनकी कॉर्पोरेट जॉब लग गई है तो कैसे लगी है, उनका स्टूडेंट एक्सपीरियंस क्या है, ठीक है, ऑल ओवर उनके पूरे ये टर्म में। तो वैसे ही आज जिस स्टूडेंट से हम बात करेंगे वो कि एक फॉर्मर स्टूडेंट है क्वांटलिंग पॉलीटेक्निक यूनिवर्सिटी के, जिसका शॉर्ट फॉर्म KPU है। ये यूनिवर्सिटी ब्रिटिश कोलंबिया में है और इसके बहुत सारे कैंपस हैं। ये जो स्टूडेंट है उन्होंने अपनी डिग्री ऑलरेडी कर ली है और उनके बाद उन्हें PR भी मिल चुका है। तो अपन बिना लेट करे शुरू करते हैं ये वीडियो। तो बिफोर वी स्टार्ट दिस वीडियो मैं आपको ये बताना चाहता हूँ कि पूरा वीडियो जो है इंग्लिश में रहेगा, क्योंकि बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स को हिंदी समझ नहीं आती है। तो बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स ऐसे भी हैं जो कि अलग कंट्रीज से है, तो अगर उनको भी ईजी हो, उनको भी समझ आए कि हम किसके बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, तो पूरा वीडियो ये इंग्लिश में होगा, जिससे कि बहुत सारे लोगों को ये वीडियो यूजफुल हो सके। तो अपन बिना लेट करे शुरू करते हैं। So, hey CJ, how's it going?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good as well, not too bad. So, first of all, thanks so much for joining me for this video, right? As I mentioned earlier too, that I do have a lot of questions to ask you for myself and for the viewers as well. So, people who are planning to come to Canada, for them, it gets them a bit rough of idea about how the life here will be and how is the college and universities. So, before I start with all my questions, could you please introduce yourself and give a bit of background check about you, or like background information about you to our viewers?
Thank you for having me. Hi everyone, my name is Charanjot. I go by CJ. I've been living in Canada for last 6.5 years. I came here as a student and now I'm a permanent resident.
Amazing. 6.5 years is a very long time.
It is indeed a very long time.
Do you have your passport yet?
No, I still have Indian passport. I'm not a Canadian citizen.
Amazing. So I'll just start with my questions, right? So the first of the question is, could you please share some details about your educational background in your home country, and what was the reason or motivation that made you choose Canada as the destination for your further studies?
So I came to Canada right after my high school, after my grade 12. One of the reasons I wanted to come to Canada was because a lot of people in my family are either in Canada, England, Australia. So growing up, I always fancied coming to different countries, studying in different countries. And so that's the reason I chose to come to Canada right after my high school, or senior secondary as they call it in India.
Is it still fancy?
It is very fancy.
Okay. So coming to the next question, right? What research did you conduct, right, on deciding Canada as your place of study for your further education? And how did you gather information about the courses and universities as well? Because I believe back, like 5 years back, there were not much of resources, right? And people were hardly coming out for studies abroad, right? But like from the last 2 or 3 years, it's like very easy. But how was it back then? Like, and as you mentioned, right, you came here directly after your high school. So how was it? How did you decide on the course, and how did you decide on the universities?
So I was confused between Canada, Australia, and France. But in then I chose Canada because I don't know French. So France was France was not an option anymore, and Australia is really hard to get permanent residency, and I want to settle where I go, so I chose Canada. So at the time I didn't do a lot of research. I just knew I wanted to come to Canada. I went to different immigration consultants, but not as many, and they just offered me the courses. I just told them what I wanted to do, and then they gave me some options, and then I just did a little bit of research. But yeah, I didn't know much before coming here.
Okay, thank you. And would you like to give a tip to our viewers for this particular thing as well? Because right now there are plenty of resources. So maybe any social apps or social networking apps they can use to connect with people, or certain websites where they can go through, to know about courses, universities, or maybe if possible, they can directly talk to the the council of the particular university or college. Maybe something like that.
Yeah, I think right now there are lots of students here in Canada, so it's easier to get information about whatever is happening. There are TikTok videos, there's Instagram, but at the same time, it's very important to get information for different resources because everyone has different views, everyone has different experiences, and also depends on what city you live in. So the first thing is to talk to as many immigration consultants as possible, so you have wide views and wide ideas. As well as if you are choosing a school or any kind of university, try to email the counselors over there, try to understand what's the process, and also like use Instagram or Facebook or any TikTok or whatever to connect with different people, because a lot of people are open to giving advices. I knew I was at the time, so talk to them, try to understand what's the process and how's living here, because immigration consultants are just trying to sell a dream, which is not always a reality.
Exactly, and most of the immigration consultant, adding to his point, only suggest you some colleges through which they are tied up with, because if they refer you to that particular college or university, they do get the commissions. So do your due diligence, right, about what college or university you want to go to, so that can help you. Also, one more thing, you can also use LinkedIn as well as a platform for connecting with people, because there's so many professionals over there. So let's say if you search for a particular college or university on LinkedIn and you press enter, you'll see a various list of students who are but in that university or have been graduated from that university. You can send them a connection request and then message them asking about how the course is and how was their life as a student, how the university is, etc. That's what I did, what I did, and it helped me as well.
That's actually a very good point. Yeah, that should be done too. I didn't know anything about anything. I was just very naive, so I just came here, but with very little research. But I was lucky enough.
Thank you, CJ. So coming to the next question, so what program did you pursue here in Canada, and what was associated cost? So we'll just segregate between the cost of the whole degree, annual living expenses across that, right? And later I'll ask you about your part-time jobs, but I just want to know the estimated cost about it. And then were there any scholarships? And if yes, how did you get them and how did you apply for it?
A lot of questions.
Yeah.
So I took horticulture at KPU here, and one of the reasons I chose this course was because I'm a plant nerd, so I want to learn more about planting and agriculture. What was, I don't remember the question.
And then what were the associated cost with your degree?
Oh yeah, so it was pretty expensive. I had to do 63 credits, and one program was 3 credits, so it's $2,000 per subject. So it's 20 to 25K if I remember correctly. And KPU had some special horticultural awards, which we could only apply at a certain time of the year. So I didn't know about those awards in my first year, and I missed the deadline anyway. But the second year I knew those awards, and I applied for those awards in time, and I was lucky enough to get some scholarships and some awards and help me cover some of my tuition. So the only thing I would recommend is talking to people, getting to know about whatever is happening, and having good work ethic to get good grades, because it's very easy to get scholarship here.
Amazing, thank you, CJ. And talking about your college as well, what was your total fees for that particular course, and how long was the course?
Like I mentioned earlier, it was between 20 to 25K. I don't remember the exact amount. So my diploma was 2 years, but it took me 3 years to do, because in horticulture we did not have any classes for summer. So for those 3 years, from May to August, I was just working full time. So technically it was 2 years if we had a number of days that I studied, but it took me 3 years to graduate.
Okay, amazing. So you were able to take out your fees, I believe, during
very
working
easy,
summers.
yeah,
Amazing. That's good to know. And coming to the next question, right? So how was your visa process altogether? What process did you go through? And if you had applied by yourself, do you remember vaguely about what were the certain steps, or did you take help of a counselor or education agent or some visa officer or something?
Yeah, I took help of an immigration consultant known as A10. They are not in business anymore.
Why is it?
I don't know. I think
Okay.
they moved out. So the process was pretty straightforward. It was very easy for me because I was doing directly after my high school, so I just need good grades in school as well as good IELTS score, and everything was pretty straightforward. You need to get your offer letter first, and it's generally based on your bands and how you were in school. And after that, you have to show your funds and submit everything, and then just apply at the embassy. So it used to take 6 weeks for the embassy to process your file. It took me 8 weeks at the time, and generally just believe that time if it takes longer than 6 weeks, it's going to be refused. So I was embracing myself for refusal. I thought maybe the immigration consultant made a mistake. So it took me a little longer than expected, but there were some people, my friends at the time, some of them got their visa in a day.
But better late than never.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Also coming to the next question. So what was your reason for selecting BC as a place of study?
Mm-hmm.
There are other provinces as well, with lot cheaper living expenses, right? And lot cheaper educational costs as well. So what was the main reason for choosing BC, British Columbia?
Yeah, so one of the reasons was good weather here. It doesn't snow too much. So I didn't know much about Canada, so I thought, in winter there's no work and there's 10 feet of snow, you can work. So I thought it doesn't snow much here, it doesn't get too cold, so I'll be able to work throughout the year, I'll have a part-time job. And at the same time, also the schools and universities that were shown to be my consultant were more concentrated towards here in BC. So it just aligned for me in a way that I came to BC.
Amazing, thank you. Also, now coming to the university related questions, you have answered all basic questions which I had. So now coming to KPU, right? So what is your overall experience with KPU? How is the university according to you? This is a very subjective question.
Yeah.
I mean, all of them are subjective, but talking about a university experience, that's a quite personal experience, I'd say.
Yeah.
But it will give our viewers an idea, right, about how the university is and what they can expect from the university. So tell me.
A lot of times, I think your experience is based on who you are as a person and how you show up in life. But my experience in KPU was exceptional. I made a lot of great friends from different parts of the world. All my instructors were great, and the horticulture faculty is really well, really nicely maintained over there. We had special greenhouses. We were trained really well, and I never had any issues. Basically, I could go to any instructor at any time and ask any questions. They were very approachable. I remember once we even went for drinks with our instructor. So yeah, it was very fun, and my friends were great. I basically never had any issues.
Amazing, that's good to know. And how were your courses? You know, how was the education over here different as compared to India? Because coming from India directly after your high school and joining here for the university seems like an overwhelming experience. So what are the cultural shocks which you had over here?
Yeah, so I didn't know what to expect in college anywhere, and I never been to college in India or anywhere.
Like if you compare the classroom and everything.
Yeah. So it was very surprising for me that we could choose our own classes. We won't have seen classmates in every class. I was hoping to see the same people in especially in my first week in different classes. Everyone was different, and also the fact that teachers were more approachable. And one of the things that stood out to me was you don't necessarily need a permission to go to the class. You can just get up and get out.
That's what I like.
And you're right.
I'm bored in lecture, I'll just take my bag and I'll leave.
Yeah, and they don't question me so much, and they're very flexible, and everything was very well laid out. So I think teachers in India keep students at arm's length. Which wasn't the case here.
Because you can eat inside the class.
Exactly, you can do whatever. You can eat, you can run, you can.
I study.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for this. So this thanks and sorry, I'm so sorry guys because I keep saying it. It's the Canadian, what do you say? Slang maybe?
Yeah, Canadian culture.
Because you get habitual to that stuff. But however, I'll try to avoid the sorry and thank you for the rest of the conversations, okay? So coming to the next question, right, Caesar? So what resources or support services you used during your college which helped getting through your colleges smoothly, and how was your total experience after starting off your college, like after a few months? How did it go?
The first few months were a little hard because I didn't know what to expect, and I'm a very introverted person, so it was very hard for me to open up with different people. But eventually, as I open up with different people, easier for me to talk to different people. And even in my first 3 classes, there were some students who had done 2 or 3 semesters, so I was able to talk to them, get to know them, what was happening. I remember I was talking to this person, and I asked her so many questions. She was so annoyed. So eventually I asked many questions, and I also came to know about different resources, like talking to counselors and trying to plan things by myself. And also, you can go to the university website. You know how to navigate through website easier when you're here, and you can talk to instructors. So it was just a combination of all of these things that allowed me to get better in school here.
Amazing. Also, what is the need of an academic schedule here? I've heard people and counselors saying that you need to make your academic schedule accordingly so that it helps you graduate in the amount of duration which you already have for the degree, right? Or maybe even before the duration or even before your degree ends. So what is it, and did you make an academic schedule, and how did your counselor help with it if they did?
Yeah, this is one of the most surprising things here is that you choose courses that you want. And some of the courses are only available in fall, some of the courses are only available in summer or spring or summer throughout the year. This is very important to have your own schedule so you know what to take, when to take. And sometimes the counselors are helpful. In my program, they weren't really. They're more helpful like end of second year. So I just went on and checked what courses were available when, and I made a schedule for myself as to when I should apply for take certain courses at certain times. And it really helped me because I knew beforehand what I was going to take in next 3 semesters, because I knew that course is not available next year, or maybe that course is only available every 2 years. We had some courses at KPU, so it's very important to plan ahead. And if your school provides a counselor, talk to them and plan everything ahead, because you don't know what's going to happen, but the counselors, they do, and it also allows you to finish your program in time. I've seen some people who didn't plan, and they were left with one program that was available in fall, and they were graduating in spring, and they were like just stuck there for another 8 months.
That's totally understandable. Some of my friends have been through that as well. Also, adding one more thing, you need to have a minimum of 3 courses to be an international student over here. Like that's a minimum of 9 credits. So if you go below that, you wouldn't be considered as an international student anymore, and your study permit would be revoked. However, during your summer semester, you're allowed to work more than 20 hours or 24 hours, right? And you're allowed to have less than 3 subjects as well. But that is only during the summer semester. Also, it is always better like to consult with your colleges and universities regarding the same. Also, I wanted to ask about how do you select your courses? Are you allowed to select your own professors, or professors are allotted to you from the university? And what is the criteria? Like, let's say if your grades are high, you're allowed to choose the professor first, or everyone can choose at once?
So it depends on the course and the program. So for my faculty horticulture, there were like 8 to 10 professors, and after like 1 to 2 semesters, you know all of them directly or indirectly. So there are only very few courses where you have options. You just have to take what is available. But fortunately, most of my professors had great ratings. But for my optional subject business, I looked on ratemyprofessor.com, and I chose very carefully on what professor I wanted to, because there were lots of professors that had terrible reviews and some were like inflexible. So that's something you can do for your program if it has multiple classes available.
Amazing. Also, adding to this, since every semesters different subjects require you to get different books. So did you have to buy them, or you could just borrow it from your seniors? Like how back in school, what I used to do is I used to, like when I was in 9th or 10th, I used to get books from my seniors who were in 11th, and then after when I was done, I used to pass it to my juniors, right? So is it possible over here, or you need to get some online subscriptions through which you need to submit your assignments, or what is it?
It varies. Like in the first semester, like I didn't have friends, I had to buy some books.
Okay.
And eventually I became friends with different people. Even if they are in the same year, they have done classes before you, so you can borrow books from them. But some professors, they require you to download certain books with certain keys to it, because they are sometimes co-authors of those books and they want to earn money through that, and you can only submit assignments through those books. So you have to download those books every semester. You can't just get it from another person who's done it. So that's just kind of hard part, and that's part of the reality. Also, like for hard books, some of the professors ask you to buy a book every semester, like different book every semester, because they change up the book. I remember there was one of the business classes, I got a book from my friend, but the professor was like, you can use it, but it won't be so easy for you because everything is just changed. They change things every semester. So it's just one of the reasons I know professors do that is because they are, like I said before, they're co-authors, or sometimes they are tied with the people who publish them, and it's a way of making money for them.
That's so true. Also, what is the average cost for a book? If someone is going to buy, is it around 60 to 75 Canadian dollars or more than 100?
Depends. It could be 60 to 100.
60 to 100.
60
Let's say
to
60 to 100, 200
Depends
figuratively.
on books,
Oh yeah, books are pretty expensive.
Yeah. So any semester you could be spending from $100 to $400 per book.
Now, coming to the part-time jobs, right? Most of the students have that thing as well, that are you able to fulfill your college fees or take out your college fees by your own? So tell me, according to you, right? Guys, CJ has been here since 5 years. He's a PR. So let's hear it from him, right? Whether he was able to, what do you say, pay off his own tuition fees, or how did it go with him?
So I was doing in 2018, 19, 20. So things were pretty different.
Yeah.
So like I was living in 2-bedroom basement with my friends, and it was 1,050. So 1,050. So per person we're only paying $350.
No, that's the dream.
Yeah, but the basic fee was pretty less as well. It was $1,135 in 2018, but it went up pretty fast after that. And it depends on how you spend. I was very careful with how I spend my money. I was very careful with when I bought my clothes. I would only buy when it was very, very needed. So I would say like you could live an okay life between $700 to $1,000 at a time. Of course, you can spend as much money as you want, but like with that amount of money, you weren't living in poverty, you weren't struggling. You could buy coffee from Tim Hortons, you could eat from outside. At the same time, you wouldn't be like having a great life, but also you wouldn't be struggling. So like $350 was my rent, and then $300 to $400 were my monthly groceries, and then after that it's just on me how much I want to spend outside. So $1,000 was like good enough.
$350 sounds so good. It sounds like nothing right now. But yeah, things were totally back. Like things were different, right, back then. And also talking about your experience while getting a job, right? How was it, and how long did it take for you to get your first job? And did you get a campus job or only outside jobs which you were doing?
I didn't look into campus jobs. I didn't know there were campus jobs. I didn't know you could get. But from what I learned later, it was mostly reference-based jobs because there were people who were working there before, and they only preferred having their own friends and family. It was pretty easy to get jobs at the time. I didn't have any reference. I didn't have any connections. Like I said, I was very introverted. I was very scared to open up to people. I got my job like less than a month after being in Canada. I got to an agency for a laundry factory called KPU. I went there to an agency, worked with them for a couple of weeks, and then I applied directly. And I got a part-time job with them. They were giving me 10 hours, 2 days, and I worked with them for 3 to 4 months. Then I changed.
That is nice. Also, for viewers, right? On-campus job. What it means is that you're working on the campus of your own college or university, right? And the like if you do a normal job that is outside, you have a work limit of 24 hours. But if you work on campus, you don't have any work limit. You can work for unlimited hours over there. So that is an advantage of an on campus job, right? So with that, coming to our next question, right? By the end of your degree, since you had to build up your own professional network, right? So how did you network with people? Everyone says that you have to network to get a good job. So let's say I don't know networking. I don't know what networking is. So for someone beginner like me, how do I talk to people, or how do I talk to professionals from my own field to secure a job in the field which I'm graduating from?
So I think networking is all about showing up in day-to-day life, especially in your school, interacting with the professors, because a lot of time your professors are people who have job in those fields. They're just teaching part-time, or who are retired, or they have connections. And I know some people who were very good in school, have good connections with professors. They recommended them for some jobs. And also your classmates. Your current classmates could be your co-workers in future. So yeah, right. And sometimes they have connections or they get a job. And if you have a link with them, if you have good interaction with them, if they remember you in a good light, they might recommend you for that job. And a lot of people in my class got jobs that way. And I was also lucky enough that KPU had branching out for horticulture in February of every year, where the potential employers would come and you could talk to them. You could select 4 potential employers for your roundtable interview, but after that you could just talk to anyone. A lot of people got hired that way, and they were all the big names from the industry that would come there. And at the same time, for our horticultural awards were sponsored by some of the employers as well. And after you get an award, there used to be dinner. I don't know if they do it anymore, but 2019 there was. And you get award, get a check from your employer, from those people, and you can interact with them. I remember one of the guys, he got scholarship from certain greenhouse, and he's hired with them now. He works for them now.
That is good. So, if you don't mind talking about, what is the starting pay scale for the people who graduate? I know it totally differentiates from field to field, but talking about horticulture for now, for you, what was your starting pay range? Like, if you don't mind sharing that with us and the viewers as well.
I started as a wage job hourly, so it was like every year 38, 39K. That's what it came to before taxes. But then, like I said, you need to have a good work ethic, and it depends on how hard you work and how big the company is. So I was kind of married to my job. Like I was very focused. I showed up on time, and I accepted my mistakes, and I worked hard. And by my 3rd year, I was salaried. I was at a salaried position, and I was making 58K per year, which isn't too great. But it was a big jump from 43K in 2nd year to 58K the 3rd year, and I got promotion. So
also talking about expenses back then, 58K is a pretty good amount.
Yeah.
For now, like according to the expenses now, what do you think is a decent amount? Who graduates in this particular economy, what do you think is a decent amount for having a good life in Vancouver, BC?
Yeah. The living wage here is like 27, 28. So I think it's 62, 63K is like needed if you're living by yourself in Vancouver. That's the minimum you need, if you want to have an okay life.
That's so true. So thank you so much, CJ. So I'm done with today's questions. I've asked a few extra questions, right? So that our viewers get a good idea about it. I know this video has been a bit long, but I'm sure it's pretty informative for them, right? And they'll be able to get good inputs out of that and plan the future over here accordingly, right? So before we go into our last questions, right? So all of us have their own bad days over here, right? Sometimes you feel like you don't want to do anything, and sometimes you are at your lowest and you feel like going back home. So how do you deal with that?
I was lucky enough. I didn't have very many those days, because I remember when I put my foot on airplane, I was like, there's no going back. Okay. So I knew there was no going back, but of course, like first month, I was very stressed. I was like, oh my god, I have to work these jobs. I have to work hard jobs to get up, and I was pretty good in school, so I was like, I would see stories of my friends who were in India. I would see them going to college. I thought they lived a comfortable life. So I was like stressed and depressed. At one point, I was like, maybe I shouldn't have come here. But then I was like, no, I made this choice and I have to be here. I have to embrace the hardships. So I just prepared myself accordingly. I just worked hard, and I knew as long as I kept on trying for things are only going to get better. There's only one way up. So I kept on trying and kept on getting better, and things are great now.
That's amazing. Good to know. Also, any last message for viewers who are planning to come to Canada or who are in that position of coming to Canada? Maybe a piece of advice for them according to you that might help them in making the transition a bit easier.
Yeah, so I think the most important thing is doing your own research, talking to different immigration consultants, because some of them are just tied to certain colleges, as well as expecting the unexpected. Canada is not like what you see in movies.
Not a bed of roses.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot more thorns now. The economy is not as great. So just embrace yourself for all the challenges, and as well as being open to different experiences, being open to different cultures, and trying not to be too judgmental, and trying to embrace the change.
Amazing. Thank you CJ for joining
Thank you.
us, and all the very best for your life.
Thank you.
Thank you. तो गाइस आज के लिए इतना ही. आई होप ये वीडियो आपको इन्फॉर्मेटिव और अच्छा लगा हो. ठीक है, और अगर आपको ऐसे और भी क्वेश्चन है जो कि आपको पूछने हो किसी से, या आपको और भी कोई डाउट्स हो, तो आप कमेंट सेक्शन में मुझे बताओ. मैं नेक्स्ट वीडियोस में वो सारे टॉपिक्स भी कवर करने की कोशिश करूंगा. अब अपन मिलते हैं अगले वीडियो पे. अगर आपको वीडियो अच्छा लगा है तो लाइक, कमेंट, शेयर, सब्सक्राइब करो, और फिर अपन मिलते हैं.